it's our faith in action, right? We're actually going out and living it by being present, by going to churches, by being in places outside of the home and outside of our local parish. Um, I don't want to raise my kids in a setting of like, this is their bubble of what their experience is. I want them to see how the universal church is everywhere we go, and how they're connected to that. And that's still their church. And so that's how this calling kind of came about. We were going to these places and I wanted resources for kids to get more out of that instead of just being like dragged into another church to pray. Make it more interactive, help them grow in their faith and learn, and to do more than just kind of surface level exposure to it. So
Now you've been doing this for 10 years now, or?
well, I'm a full-time homeschooling mom of 5 kids. So uh, when they were really little, my husband's retired Navy. So we were moving cross country every year to 3 years, and driving. So we did national parks and we did Catholic sites. And we were going to the national parks, doing the junior ranger program, right? Where you get your little book, you fill in all this information, you learn about the site, and then you turn it into the ranger. You take your little pledge to protect the parks and learn about it. And I'm like, we need this for our Catholic sites. So that calling started when they were little. And I'm like, someone needs to make this. And then, my kids would continue. This would be part of our lifestyle. Like, someone really needs to make this. Tap, tap, tap. Like, I can't. I have 5 babies, a military spouse, and all of this. I can't. And tap, tap, tap. So I would have all of these ideas just constantly come to me. We'd go to these sites. I'm like, oh, it'd be neat to have like this activity here. And then the kids could like put their prayer intentions about this here. And I'm like, okay, clearly I'm getting these ideas for a reason. So um, it started 10 years ago loosely as a little bit of a blog. I'm not a consistent blogger. So that kind of fizzled out, but the website's been there. And about 5 years ago, COVID kind of opened up a lot of opportunities because we couldn't go really anywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try making one book. And that was quite the fast and expedient learning curve. And that was the book for Our Lady of La Leche and St. Augustine, where I had spent a lot of time personally there. And we lived a couple hours away. And that kind of took off better than I expected. And that's kind of what I'm like, okay, well, I'll just make some books and then we'll see. And then at some point, we'll see. So there's 6 books now in the last 5 years. Um, 2 for kind of more general, one for general pilgrimage, one for cathedrals and basilicas, because those are everywhere. You could make a pilgrimage in your own backyard and the church down the street, because you can obviously learn about pilgrimage and its history and make that a spiritual journey anywhere, obviously. And then I have 4 for specific shrines. Our Lady of La Leche, the Cabrini Shrine in New York City, the Stanley Brother Shrine, which I think your kids may have used. You
Yes.
wrote about that one. Yes.
Yes, we
And
did visit that one.
the Shrine of St. Joseph in New Jersey. So, um, which ironically, on the national pilgrimage that's happening right now, I have like a book at the beginning and ending, or like 2 of those sites along the trail. So my books,
It's true.
but
It's true. It's good.
anyway,
Um,
that's my rambling on about all of that.
yeah. I want to get to Joan and Patrick, but just one, can you share with us any, since over the 5 years, they've been in the hands of kids and, um, preteens. Can you, um, can you share with us a little bit about, what you've noticed with the kids in these books and maybe how you know, how they've been able to learn more about pilgrimage through them?
Um, Obviously, my own children are my own test subjects.
Yes,
So
that's okay.
it's really fun to see that, we hadn't been to a new cathedral in a while or walk into a basilica. And my 6-year-old's like, look, I found the cathedra. And I'm like, it stuck somehow because I have a little activity where you like decorate the cathedra. I have lots of like it's different age ranges, right? So everyone's going to get something different out of it in different stages, and so they get reintroduced to the books every couple of years and get something new. But just having that knowledge of like how to read a church is very valuable, right? Like, what does this mean? Why is this over here? Where is Jesus? Where is this like the most sacred spot in the church? Like all of that becomes like it makes it more meaningful if you know what you're looking at. So I think that's been empowering more kids to understand and get more out of their experiences. So
That's great. You were talking about how you were inspired with the going to the different parks. Patrick, I believe that's kind of how your publication got started. Can you share a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story is actually pretty similar with Teresa's as well. I moved around a lot as a kid, East Coast, West Coast, and now I'm in the Midwest. And I traveled a lot for work, and I like doing road trips. And like similar to Teresa, I would go to the national parks and everything and do the stamps. I do have to admit I like the junior ranger badges, so I did do those even though I was an adult. But collecting the stamps and then it's going and having those journeys and seeing all the different places, it brings you out of your home church and it helps you realize like that the Catholic Church, the scope of it, and it is a worldwide thing. Um, and there's the whole component of the structure of the church, but then it helps you build your own personal faith. So at the same time, you're learning about the church, and then you're learning about your own faith and deepening your perspective with God and your relationship with Jesus and everything. So um, that's really kind of where I got the inspiration to do it through the National Park Passport. Um, so with mine, it was like, okay, well, which churches do I include? Because, there's like 20,000 churches in the US alone. I was like, man, that's going to be a really big book. So I started doing some research and found some good resources for narrowing my focus down to the cathedrals, basilicas, national shrines. And then there's like five UNESCO World Heritage churches in the US. So I was like, okay, perfect. There's 400 there. It's a bit of a large task, but I'll just go for it. So I really just started putting it together. I taught myself how to do it all. I'm not with a big publishing house. My mom works in the industry, but you know, that that's so she kind of gave me some good advice on when I was making it and designing it and everything. But just kind of went from there. It's been a big learning curve and trying to meet all the different people and uh, the Catholic industry is is very large and there's a lot of different organizations and I'm kind of learning all that as I go. But it's been a fun experience. So that's really kind of been my journey with it.
Yeah, and what's new? Is there anything new as far as the publication goes?
Right now, so well, we actually just recently became a vendor, I guess you will, with Catholic companies. So that's been good. We've been, getting a lot of books out there through Catholic company. Um, since I'm kind of, I guess you'd call this just a small apostolate. It's mainly just a family-run organization here for right now. So we're kind of trying to keep up with our orders, and then on top of like, so there's social media and the
Yeah.
whole everything about running a business. So right now we still have the our first edition, just the Catholic Pilgrimage Passport U.S. edition. Um, but what we'd like to do, and we're in the process of designing, is a NASPA edition. I want to we'll do a children's edition, an expanded edition. So right now we're kind of just trying to figure out how I can focus more on designing and making the book and having it all printed. Sorry if you can hear my dog slurping. So yeah, and then I want to do international, and there's a lot of ways that we can expand the line. But I think most importantly, right now for us, um, is really just emphasizing the beauty of the church in the U.S. You don't have to go on some big expanded group trip to Italy. I mean, it's a lot of fun through Italy or through Europe or whatever. But if, even whether you're able to do that trip with time or money or not, the Passport U.S. edition shows that like you can be anywhere and find a church. So it's a great resource to just pull it up, see what, if you're in region one or if you're over in California and California's region, you can just open up your book and find pretty much guaranteed you're going to find a church that's somewhere within a reasonable drive from you. So it's a great way to get out there and just push your faith and grow. So that's kind of where we are right
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah, I think that, Europe has the established, well, Europe is a lot smaller in geographically. So
Yeah.
the tradition of, walking pilgrimages and um but just, going to different sites in general, it's just a lot, I feel it's like a lot easier and just more established culturally. So I feel like there's a growing movement in the US. So, we are trying to, bring this. And, I'm starting to, different organizations I follow on social media, I'm seeing even small prayer groups. They are, they're doing it. They're going to the different shrines that are close by. Um, and I think that's really powerful.
Mhm.
Um, Joan, now you do, you bring these groups together, you take them all over. Um, could you maybe focus a little bit on your high school groups that you take over and share a little bit about the book that you just published?
Yeah. So I do work for a pilgrimage company, Verso Ministries. I'm their pilgrim formation manager. Verso's the only Catholic pilgrimage company that has somebody dedicated full time to formation. So making sure that that this Catholic travel is intentional, that they are forming their hearts and their minds, and they have the resources before they go off to the cathedrals of Europe or wherever they're going to go. But apart from my work at Verso, I wrote a book called Making a Pilgrimage, a companion for Catholics, out of Emmaus Road Publications. So it was actually separate from my work from Verso. And it was out of this desire that Theresa and Patrick have both mentioned that people could make a pilgrimage anywhere. And I think sometimes we do think about Europe or we think about the Holy Land and we have these grand, like international expensive trips in mind. And we forget what a pilgrimage really is, or maybe we don't know what a pilgrimage is. And one thing I saw as a huge gap in the market was the Catholic guide to what a pilgrimage is. Before we can take our kids on pilgrimage, we have to know what it is. And so many people have this misconception about pilgrimage, I think. And so, I boasted that there's no book like this in the Catholic market. It's just introduction to Catholic pilgrimage, to the history of pilgrimage, to how to make a pilgrimage. And I said something to Scott Hahn, who's connected to Emmaus Road, and he was like, "Well, that's a pretty bold claim that this is the only book on the market." And then he was like, "But I think you're right." Because we don't have that kind of introduction to just what is it. We have a lot of memoirs. We have a lot of Protestant, actually. We have some New Agey approaches to pilgrimage. But we need to be teaching people exactly what Theresa said, that we can make a pilgrimage to the cathedral down the street. And one thing the book kind of focuses on is that we're all on pilgrimage. We're all pilgrims. We're all on pilgrimage through this pilgrimage of life. And so even if somebody might be watching this webinar and be homebound, but you are still a pilgrim because we are all pilgrims in this world. And I think that's the power of pilgrimage, is that it's this external manifestation of what we're all struggling with every day, that we're pilgrims that have lost our luggage and are just clinging to the Lord and asking him to help us get home. And so I'm a Catholic speaker as well, and that's kind of the theme lately. Because I think you're absolutely right, Ashley. Like, people are talking about pilgrimage again. People in America have their eyes open to pilgrimage, and how can we, how can we help this in people's spiritual lives, help them grow closer to Christ through pilgrimage? So I've been really edified, Theresa and Patrick. I'm like, let's collaborate. Like, this is fantastic, Ashley. Like, these people, like, it's just great to all be together talking about pilgrimage. So, but Verso also does high school pilgrimages. We love taking high schoolers on pilgrimage. We have a massive group that we take to World Youth Day every year. We're probably going to take close to 2,200 kids to World Youth Day in Korea. And the beauty of I think young people on pilgrimage is that they're at that time of their life, whether they're 5, whether they're 15, whether they're 25, where like they're making the faith their own and they're beginning to fall in love with Jesus Christ. And sometimes we need to be taken out of our comfort zone a little bit for that to really sink in. So I think we have to preach it loud and clear that anybody can go on pilgrimage and any age can go on pilgrimage.
Yeah, so true. Like when I was growing up, I feel like the big fear was like you send your kid to college and then like they lose their faith. So, you know, the parents, they were all worried about that, and there's still that fear. But since I've been in college, I feel that there's been, more solutions or answers to that. And one of them I think is pilgrimage. And I think that it's keeping a lot of young people on track. And but that you said it just in taking personal responsibility for your faith. And the sooner that happens, just the more solid I feel your foundation. Um, but this is great, and I think you guys have some wonderful resources. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'm going to open up the Q&A. If you have a question, I can either you can ask it live, or you could just put it in the Q&A, whatever you are comfortable with. Now, Joan, you're taking a lot of kids to World, and that's in Korea
South
this
Korea.
next year,
2027.
2027.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how, as the pilgrimage formation coordinator, how are you doing that? How are you
Yeah,
forming now for this huge?
yeah. So what I love is that we're working with a lot of dioceses. We're actually taking a fifth of the dioceses are working with Verso to go to South Korea. So a lot of times we're working with a diocese or a parish. And so I actually get to help the formators form, right? I worked for a diocese for 10 years. I was the director of faith formation. And so I know how important those diocesan roles are, or the group leader. So a lot of times I'll help them form, and I'll, help them see what is a pilgrimage, what is the importance, how do we prepare. But we actually have some modules that we're unveiling next year where we will have webinars like this. We'll have handouts and one pagers and Lectio Divina meditations on different themes to get people ready. Because I think the important thing about pilgrimage is to prepare ahead of time. Not too much that you're not open to the Lord's surprises, because there will always be surprises. But to know, okay, where am I going? Why am I doing this? And to actually pray, but like what is this about? So that when you're in the midst of it, your heart's that soil is cultivated. And one of the great things about pilgrimage is it continues to cultivate that soil, so that when you come home, your diocesan leader, your youth minister, has kind of that rich soil to sow into. And so we really see ourselves as collaborators with the group leaders, with the diocesan leaders in that formation. And it's exciting. It's a privilege.
Now, how many World Youth Days will this make for you as far as taking kids?
For me personally, this is actually only my second. Last World Youth Day was my first, but Verso was founded out of World Youth Day when our founder went to Poland, and heard the call to go and to like start Verso and to start taking people to World Youth Day. I mean, we take people a lot of places. We take people, on the Camino. We just took the Notre Dame college kids on the Camino. They got home yesterday. We take parish groups, to the Holy Land, to Rome, everywhere. But World Youth Day will always be close to our heart, because out of that Krakow experience, John Paul decided to found Verso. Some of our group leaders, this will be their 10th World Youth Day, which is awesome. To have that experience. I always said I would never go, and now I find myself going to South Korea next year. So here we go.
Yeah, I mean it's a big trip, but I personally have never been, but that's just maybe it might be my future. Who knows? Now
Come with us,
Teresa,
Ash.
yeah, maybe we'll see. Um,
Uh,
Teresa, Patrick,
I have
World
a
Youth Day at
question.
all?
Oh,
Hey, Christine, you want
this
to
is
go?
Christine. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so just from the panel, like, what do you have? Do you have a suggestion for what we could do at our shrines to promote the actual pilgrimage experience? Like, we get a lot of youth groups, like high school groups or schools on retreat. And so they're on the retreat here as that experience. So I guess I wondered what you think we could do to encourage them to actually get a pilgrimage experience, and why the shrines are so important to do that. Kind of like help us help them. Like, what do you suggest? And I know we have Teresa's book in our gift shop for the little guys, and I think that's wonderful. I always encourage families, just go get that, and that'll get you started. But what about the school age kids, a little older? Any suggestions?
Joan, you want to take that?
Sure. I loved what Teresa said when she was talking about like finding the different things in the shrine and mentioned like where's the tabernacle. I think sometimes we can get distracted by like the art and the history. And I had a tour guide one time, wherever we went, she said, first we're gonna go say hi to the master of the house. And it's really beautiful because she was a tour guide. She could have talked about anything, but before we did anything in the cathedral, in the basilica, we went to say hello to Jesus. And so I think making sure that our time with our high schoolers or our middle schoolers or our school, is centered in prayer. And then also adventure, like thinking about Patrick's resource, that they can see that those things are combined, that we're actually making a pilgrimage to Christ, to his presence. And so we're going to start in prayer, we're going to go to mass, we're going to receive the sacraments. But then also that doesn't preclude the fact that this is like as cool as going and seeing a national park. So I think any way we can kind of give that both, and the history and the prayer, the adventure and the prayer is important. But sometimes those like people need to be reminded that this is really about seeing Jesus, right? This is really about the sacraments and that sacramental activity. Sometimes group leaders need to be reminded that there should be opportunities for confession, that we should be directing ourselves in prayer. Teresa probably has other suggestions.
I don't know much more to add to that. I mean, that is the focus too, right? Like you're going to see Jesus and you're going to see it in the context of this special place, this why it was there, what is its legacy, who are the people, like often orders, like at the Shrine of Saint Joseph, what order is behind it? Let's learn about this order, expanding it, and then of course like these layers that come out of the center of that purpose is Jesus and the sacraments, and then the place and how it expands outward. So having, practical, like, I don't know, I like tangible things, right? We're Catholic, we like tangible things. Having, just like a one-page sheet that can be out saying, here's like a really brief blurb on why this shrine is here, who founded it, here's our legacy, and here are some key things to point out, like a little self-guided tour, but focus it on, this is obviously focus it on Jesus. This is all bringing us back to that purpose as to why we're here. Here's our sacraments right front and center. Here's all our opportunities for confession, when masses, all these things, and focus a lot on that. I don't know, I like having that tangible sheet, like, okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, because we have like maps of the property and we have everything identified, but maybe it's just getting that little line of information in, like exactly what you said, why the shrine is here, what's it all about in addition, and then go find, Our Lady of Fatima down the hill and such and such. And we had a school group yesterday that the kids were just literally rolling down the hill. And I was like, well, I'm glad they're having a good time, but are they getting what we want them to get out of their visit? So yeah.
I just want to interject from the person who's had kids that have rolled down that hill.
Yes.
There is something tangible about that, and they will remember it for their lives, and they will think back like, I had so much fun. Maybe as an adult, I'd like to go visit that place again. And then as an adult, it'll be a different experience for them. But one thing I'd like to suggest, I've talked to a lot of pilgrimage groups and people that are going on pilgrimage, and a lot of times we'll get these like, hey, I'm going on pilgrimage. Do you have any prayer intentions for me? And I think when you open it up to like other people that are like depending on you to go and pray on their behalf, that kind of keeps you a little accountable. I think that for younger, that's something that needs to be done for younger generations. High schoolers, like when they're carrying a special prayer intention from somebody, I think that can keep them focused.
That's great, Ashley, because I think that could even be suggested to the coordinator for the event and say, hey, review with your students before they come, gather their intent, who they want to pray for. I mean, just a simple saying like that, I think can encourage. That's great. Yeah.
I think reminding people that like pilgrimages are made for different intentions. So like petitioning gratitude, and even like you said, like talking to the group leaders beforehand, like why don't we talk to the kids about the fact that you can go on pilgrimage in Thanksgiving to answered prayers? What are you thankful for, right? And even having them kind of write that out and bring it to the shrine, to say like, do you have a petition? Did somebody else have a petition? Do you have a Thanksgiving? And kind of go through, what are you sorry for, right? Like, what do you want to make a sacrifice for? And for kids, like to walk through these steps, this is why we make pilgrimage, and then they're doing it themselves could be really powerful.
One thing that I'd like to add is, you guys mentioned um, discovering Jesus through the sacraments and everything, and where Jesus is in the tabernacle. But one of the things that I've noticed when I go to these locations is obviously experiencing the sacraments and all that is wonderful. But sometimes I have my most profound experiences in some of the more like far off places in the corner of the building or on the property of the place, like the Basilica of the National Shrine in DC of the Immaculate Conception. Uh, I was just drawn to the crypt down in the basement, and I would go and hunker down there and just like where you find God, where obviously through the sacraments, but when you're just praying and perusing the property, you can find God where he speaks to you and then spend time there. And for me, that's been one of the biggest impacts in my faith journey, because I specifically remember like, finding these places around these different properties and just being called to stop and pray for whatever reason at some specific location, whether it's in a crypt and the Basilica of the National Shrine, or it's around the property under a big oak tree and next to a statue. So those are the things that I think are also really important in the whole pilgrimage journey.
When you mentioning the shrine of in DC, I spoke with a young college student who went to Catholic U, and during her time from her freshman year to her senior year, she made it her mission to say a rosary in every single chapel, which there are 100, an oratory in, and she like barely made it, but she made it. And I thought that was pretty great to have, basically a 4 year or 4 or 5 year ongoing pilgrimage when you're in college, and that kind of a crucial time in your life. Uh, Patrick, one another thing I really love about your book is something I'm hearing at masses, as school's starting to wrap up and people are planning their vacations. The priest is from the pulpit. They're reminded, like, when you're on vacation and it's Sunday, you still got to go to mass. And
Yeah.
of course, we have a lot of online resources that you can find. But it's also like, wouldn't it be great if you can kind of plan your vacation kind of around some of these wonderful Catholic sites, and as the passport shows, and just very very clear, they're all over the place, so there's no excuse. There's literally a shrine 6 minutes from Disneyland in Florida.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. Well, I've been really enjoying our conversation. This is so great. Um, is anybody else from the audience want to share either a pilgrimage experience or a shrine that they're planning to visit this summer? I'll take that. I think we're probably starting to wrap up this session, but I wanted to just thank you guys for taking the time to be here today. I know it's May and it's busy, so I do appreciate it. Um,
My kids are enjoying the time that they're not doing school right now, so it's all good.
um, Christine, so question for you, if you don't mind. So are you are you kind of wrapping up your school groups now, or will there be an increase in the summer for young adult groups, or is that pretty much a school time thing?
It's pretty much school time. We have a few more. We just had like 3 this week, 1 more tomorrow. So they're getting through. In the summer, we get a lot of groups like that come from New York City and that come out for the day, Brooklyn and other places. A lot of Chinese and Korean and different, groups like that just charter a bus and then come out for the day. So we have a picnic grove area and they can be outside and roam the grounds, and we have adoration and, mass every day and things. So confessions every day. So yeah, they come out and just enjoy the space, which is wonderful. Yeah.
One of the things
We're
that
looking
I
forward
love
to it.
about your shrine is it's just so there's lots of dimensions to it. Of course, you have it's the shrine of Saint Joseph, but you have
Mhm.
um the Trinity Order there, and then
Yeah.
you have Cabrini also. There's Cabrini statue on your property, um and it's beautiful. By
Yeah.
the way, it's very lovely.
Thanks. Yeah. And then we just brought up in our staff meeting, or we're going to talk about next month, is this being the 250th anniversary of the country, and then we have a Tower of Remembrance area. We have steel from 9/11 on our property, and so that'll be 25 years. So about combination of that is like, do we do anything extra special, that kind of thing. So we try to just tap into what brings everybody here. So it's really nice.
Yeah, everybody's got their reason. You never know,
Yeah.
what's the heart of a pilgrim when they show up at your door.
Yeah. And just to bring you back to what I was talking about, the school groups, one of the most satisfying things I get in my job, when I get the people that call for their wedding and they said, yeah, I came here with my high school retreat. Can I get married there? And I say, well, no, but I'm great. I'm glad that you remember us, and that you're still want to be in the Catholic faith and all of that. But we, being a mission center, we're not a diocesan shrine, so all our sacraments are recorded at the parish down the street. So they can only come here for a wedding if they have a relationship with one of our priests who are part of the missionary servants.
They could come for a pre-wedding pilgrimage. St.
Yeah,
Joseph is kind of perfect. The St. Joseph connection there for as blessed, like,
yes, we've had several engagements, out after mass at one of the statues and things like that. So yes.
But I really like that, Teresa, like wedding pilgrimage, because that's something that lots of shrines encounter. It's like, can we get married there? Well, no, and there are good reasons for that, but you could, maybe you need to rearrange the honeymoon and kind of like incorporate some pilgrimage into that.
oh, I'm always looking for like, how can we make this a pilgrimage? Any type of like celebration or thing we need to pray for, or learning that, a family friend just got diagnosed with cancer. Okay, I know where to go, and we're making a pilgrimage out of it. And I mean, you can literally use pilgrimage for any purpose, because we can pray for anything. And it's that tangible, we can pray at home, obviously, right? Like, but to make the extra effort, especially with kids in tow, make that extra effort to make the trip and all the inconvenience that entails, right? That's an extra layer of offering your prayers, right? For whatever intention is, because it's not easy. So,
Yeah, we had a kind of unique experience. We had a gentleman who was becoming ordained a priest. So he came here for his, retreat prior to that event. And then his family was from all across the country, and they chose to do kind of what you're saying, Teresa. They did a pilgrimage across the country and visited different shrines, and ended up here meeting up him at the end of his retreat, and then went over to Newark and the cathedral for the celebration. But I thought, what a great experience for that family. Like, just phenomenal. So we just played a little part, but it just was wonderful. Yeah. There's all different ways. We just got to keep our minds open to it and receive and welcome all who come. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. This was great.
Yeah, I really
To
like
be
this.
together. Yeah.
So thank you all for coming and being part of this group. So for those who were kind of late coming in, this is kind of a new initiative we have is trying to kind of reach out to more of our pilgrim audience here at NASPA. And I think this is a great success. So we'll be doing more of these. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I will put my contact in the chat. And then I do encourage you to go to the chat and go to the links of some of our amazing authors and try out their resources before summer gets in full swing. And if it's like if you already got summer like set, that's fine. Christmas is only a couple months away. So prepare now so you don't have a stressful Christmas.
Yeah.
But yes, once again, thank you all for being here and have a blessed summer. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yep.
Ashley.
Thank you.